If you've been following along with the channel, you know we put in a pool, and I've been working on the pool house, affectionately called the cantina. Well, I decided the covered patio I would timber frame because I'm me, and I think traditional timber frame structures are cool, and my wife loves it, and I'm a masochist. With the first batch of green, wet, heavy white oak timbers ready, I thought it would be time to prepare and build myself a set of beefy sawhorses. This is a story about that. I've made a few pairs of ponies over the years, and I've made them on job sites, but if I'm in my shop, anytime I'm making anything with off of 90-degree angles, I like to draw my parts to scale to get a real measurement off of the drawing to make my math easy. I wanted my horses to be 30 inches tall with 12-degree splayed legs. I marked 12 degrees off of 90 using the gauge on my speed square, then I continued the line with a long straight edge. This roll of cheap craft paper is 28 inches wide, which is perfect for most applications, and a great layout tool for things like table bases and protecting your bench during glue-ups. My legs ended up being 28 and 15/16 inch long from the long point to the short point of the 12-degree beveled legs. Feel free to round up to 29 inches. I headed over to the miter saw to cut my leg stock with that 12-degree bevel on the bottoms and the tops. Think of the legs as parallelograms. I'm using 2x6 material for the added beefiness, but you could certainly use 2x4 material as well. You should be able to get 3 legs per one 8-foot 2x, and I cut the beams to 4 feet to accommodate a 4x8 sheet of plywood in the future. Some people like to make their legs with splay and rake for more stability. I personally have found the raked legs to be a tripping hazard when I'm walking around the horses, and they aren't as strong when put up to massive downward force. Again, I'm making these to hold super heavy white oak timbers while I cut the joinery. If you picked nice straight boards, you could jump right into the next step, but I'm a fan of the old adage of something worth doing is worth doing well. I'm using my Grizzly industrial milling machines to joint and plane all of my material because I like stock to be dead, flat, and true. I would also like to thank Grizzly for continuing to support this channel and my shop by sponsoring this video. I'll put a link in the description to all the machines I use as well as some others you can save on using my code found in the description. I used my Grizzly spiral head jointer and planer to get the stock flat, edge jointed them, then ripped off the rounded edge at the table saw. This is where my horses start to differ. I wanted what I'm going to call the beam, or I guess the back if you think about where you'd place a saddle in the equestrian sense, to be really beefy. For regular sawhorses, you could certainly get away with a single 2x, but I'm laminating 2 2x6s together for the added strength. I have to say, after working with hardwoods for so long, going back to softwoods was a tough pill to swallow. The amount of sap and resin found in the spruce was cringeworthy, and I thought of all the sharp things in my shop it was dulling, let alone making any surface I laid it on sticky. I laid out the complementary angle to the 12-degree on the top of the splayed legs and headed over to the bandsaw to cut the angle. If I were on a job site and didn't have a bandsaw, I would clamp the leg to something and cut it from both sides with a circular saw, then finish the cut with a handsaw or sawzall, or just simply use a handsaw altogether. After cutting the one leg freehand, I decided to whip up a quick jig with some scraps and CA glue to cut the other 7 legs. With the legs cut, I cleaned up the beams. First, I took off any little discrepancies from the glue up with my smoothing plane. Then I broke all the sharp edges with a block plane. I said in the beginning that the legs were 28 inches tall, and I wanted 30-inch horses. I marked down 2 inches from the tops of the beams and 9 inches in from the ends, although I changed that measurement later on. With my layout done, I drove in some 3-inch screws to hold the legs in place so I could get a measurement for the beam supports. I cut those on the miter saw. Back at the sawhorses, I screwed in the beam supports to complete the sawhorses. Well, almost. After placing the legs 9 inches back, I decided the cantilever was too much and moved the legs out further on the beam and decided this was much more stable. With that, I had a completed pair of beefy sawhorses. Now, when the beams get messed up, I can just make some new beams and put the old legs on the new beams. And now for the real test, to see how these horses hold up to some heavy white oak timbers. I've built many sawhorses over the years. I contemplated making some really fancy oak horses with timber frame joinery. I also thought about making horses I've made in the past. I thought these were a good mix. They are beefy and strong, but made from 2x material and uses simple joinery, not to mention they are stackable. Let me know what you think in the comments. Meanwhile, I'm going to get back to designing the joinery and starting to cut all these big white oak timbers. Until we meet again, thanks for watching.